Next up, we have Curro Holdings, which is a South African company offering education from preschool to grade 12. It has a market cap of 11.7 billion rand, has a PE ratio, I think also in the hundreds, but is not paying a dividend yet. Now, this is almost your first mover in a South African context, offering private school education at an affordable price.
Because they're not the first to the market, but they're the first to offer the, to middle income families who say, education is very important to me and I know that my child is going to make progress if I stick them into a stable environment where there's accountability. So I think that's the big part. You want to know that the teacher is there on time every day, and what you get is a child at the end that manages to pass matric and has a better chance at tertiary education.
So how this business is structured, about 75% of learners go to the Curro branded schools.
Correct.
That's more upper end, quite expensive. You've got those eco estates and then the little school on the side. Those are the kind of schools they're targeting. The other 25% of their learners go to the Meridian brand. Yeah, yes. I think there's about 6 campuses of those, and they can have up to 3,000 students per campus. Old Mutual, in fact, own 35% of that business, so it's a partnership there. And that's, very exciting from a South African perspective, because it's providing affordable education to people who historically couldn't afford, and quality education.
Again, but this one differs because there's no extramural offerings. So it's just you walk in during the day, there's a teacher. When the closing bell rings, you go back home. If you want any sport or extramural activities, that you've got to do outside of school, hence why it's a little bit cheaper. So I think that one is competing head on with the schools, and I'd like to see a lot more of those based in middle income housing in South Africa and competing head on, because maybe, just maybe, that will mean that the government schools in those specific areas will have to pull up their socks, because what we also know is that Curro are starting to train their own teachers too, so they'll be feeding into the school systems people that have gone through their teaching program. So that in itself, I think, is also very exciting.
And that program of teaching the teachers gives me the feeling that Dr. Chris van der Merwe, he's the
Doctor
founder
in education.
Exactly, he's a teacher by nature. He's not just doing this to make money, he's doing this to make a difference within a South African context, because he said that he formed that teacher training college so as not to poach teachers from the state. So he wants to align himself with the state, work with the state. You don't want the state sort of pushing against Curro, and the state really shouldn't, because they are offering a great service. Having said that, though, it's still very, very small. When you look at the numbers, their goal is for 90,000 learners by 2020, which is 0.72% of the educational pool within South Africa, 12.5 million. So it's still a very small fish in a massive pond. In terms of valuations of the business, it's very expensive, but a lot is expected of the company, and you can see why. There's a lot of blue sky. Are you in the camp that thinks it's too expensive, the expectations are too high? We know it's a good business. Is it a good investment?
Well, what we didn't add in any of this is they're actually in the middle of a rights issue, which I've seen you on the phone to a few clients about. So just remind me, the rights issue, it's for every 9 that you hold.
For every 11,
you're getting 1 extra at 25
rand. Currently trading at 36 rand, so you're getting a
You'd
good discount.
You'd be dumb not to take it up.
But if you saw that graph earlier,
and that's
look at the graph there. Look at what the share price has done.
But that's also actually X so the rights.
So that's already diluted, trading at 36 rand a share.
So, I mean, it almost seems as if, everyone's backing the big investor also inside of Curro, which, just remind everyone,
PSG.
is PSG. And Yanni Mouton actually contacted Chris. And I remember seeing an interview on this channel where Chris was like, what? Yanni Mouton wants to speak to me? Are you crazy? But Yanni Mouton is just another example of how he's using PSG as a vehicle to be able to offer services to people that essentially they didn't have before.
And that's a good teamwork opportunity, because you've got Chris van der Merwe running the business, and then the PSG team in the back, they own more than 50%, dealing with the acquisitions and growth by acquisition and so on. Sasha, are you hot on Curro?
Yeah, look, I mean, from a valuation perspective, it's just completely nuts. It's like Naspers and Amazon, you know, the aforementioned. But I think the theme in itself is unstoppable, because as long as public sector education is not great in South Africa, all the private guys at affordable levels will do well.
And it's a very profitable business. I think only 9 schools, which have an occupancy rate of over 75%,
So there's room to grow.
provide the bulk of the profits for the business. So as they get those occupancy rates up, you know, it's going to carry, those earnings are going to grow into the share price. I agree with you. I'm certainly hot on Curro.